we shouldn't take any of this so seriously. This is just what we do to make money. Your business, my business, the people that are working with us on the podcast right now, like anyone listening, like this is just what you do to make money. Let's have some fun. Hold hands when you cross the street, skip and dance, go do silly things. I think we have to let that 13-year-old that's trapped inside of us out more, because we're all going to die and we're all just walking each other home.
Cameron, I'm so excited. I've been wanting to meet with you almost a year now.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time I met you face to face was at Thrive. And you've got an incredible story. So I want to dive into why you are the absolute best at helping people become elite second in commands, how you understand CEOs and why you understand CEOs. I also want to dive into your background, like what you did, and then just a lot of the cool stuff that you have going on, because I think what you're doing is brilliant, because you are creating content. It's like the whole blue ocean. You're creating content for something that nobody's creating content for, yet I feel like is as important as the number one guy. So let's start with you.
I think what makes me interesting as understanding the COO as well as the CEO is I am an entrepreneur. I was groomed as an entrepreneur. I did a TED Talk years ago that's on the main TED website, as Raising Kids as Entrepreneurs. And so I was literally groomed to be an entrepreneur. I've been growing entrepreneurs. I've been coaching entrepreneurs. In fact, Kimbal Musk, I coached him back in 1993. And as Peter Reeve, who built Solar City, I coached him in 1993.
This is Elon's brother.
Elon's brother, yeah.
Right.
So they were both franchisees of mine at College Pro Painters 25 years ago. So I've been coaching entrepreneurs now for 27 years. So I've been in the coaching of entrepreneurs space and I've been in entrepreneur space, but in the classic business world, for 3 times I played the second in command. So even though I had a lot of the entrepreneurial traits and all the entrepreneurial skills, when we built out Boyd Auto Body and Gerber Auto Collision, I was the second in command. When we built out College Pro Painters, I was effectively second in command, running West Coast of the United States. When we built 1-800-GOT-JUNK, I was the chief operating officer. My best friend Brian was the CEO. So 3 times, and that really spanned a total of 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, a total of 18 years I played the second in command role. So when you think about me being very entrepreneurial, but being in that second in command seat, I really understand the role, the dynamics, how the relationships have to work. And so that's really when I started coaching entrepreneurs. I left 1-800-GOT-JUNK 11 years ago. So in that last 11 years, I've been truly coaching real businesses. There's a lot of kind of coaches that coach the entrepreneurs of real businesses, but
when you say real businesses, define that for me.
Mine need like 20, 25 employees minimum before I start talking to them. I've coached the second in command at Sprint. I coached the CEO of Sprint. I coached a Monarchy in the Middle East.
Wow.
I coach guys at grasshopper.com. I've actually coached 3 companies that have sold for over 100 million. So that's really my zone, is working with the CEO and the COO and their leadership teams and giving them the skills and the tools to grow.
What was it at 1-800-GOT-JUNK that you were able to accomplish from the time that you got there to the time you had left?
Well, there were 3 core things. So I walked into 1-800-GOT-JUNK in October 2000. There were 14 employees at the head office when I got there. In fact, I was employee 14. When I left 6.5 years later, we had 3,100 employees system-wide. We were operating in 330 cities. We went from 2 million to 106 million in 6 years. Twice ranked number 1 to work for in British Columbia and once ranked number 2 to work for in Canada.
Wow.
So we were literally one of the biggest, hottest brands in the country, along with Lululemon, the Vancouver Olympics, and Intrawest that owned Whistler. Those were the 4 companies you wanted to work for on the West Coast. So I got known for building that. The reason that it did well was the 3 core things. The first thing is, and it was pretty much on day 1 when I got there, I said, we really have to raise our prices. And everyone said, no, we can't. We're already struggling to attract people. And I said, well, here's the deal. We're going to increase our prices 50%, but we're going to be the premium. We're going to be kind of like the Starbucks. Like, it's ridiculous that we pay $5.50 for a coffee. But because we pay $5.50 for a coffee, they can have better staff. They can have good service. They can have good product. Hell, you go to like a really great kind of independent coffee place, you're paying $6 for a latte now. Mm-hmm. And their staff's even better, right? So we charged a premium. Second thing was we focused on a cult. Everyone talks about culture. Culture comes from being a little bit more than a business, a little bit less than a religion, and kind of being in that zone of a cult in between. So I tried to create that cult where that's like stuff up on the wall, mantras, sayings, anything that becomes kind of like creating habits, only hiring high culture people, and then getting rid of all the toxic people. Most companies don't do that. And then the third was PR, was how much free press can we generate for the business? Because no one believes advertising and marketing as much as they believe PR. Yes, you have to advertise. Yes, you have to do marketing, but if you can also lever that up with free press. So we actually understood how to generate free PR. We landed 5,200 stories that were all independent single stories, and there was nowhere to share it. If we had Facebook when I was there, We could have blown up. We did blow up, but imagine what we really could have grown to if we could have shared all that press on social feeds.
I want to talk about the free PR. I put a note here because I want to get to it, and we will get to it.
But those were the 3 concrete things for sure that we did starting day one.
What were the numbers? How many? You had 16 employees when you had started? 14 employees, and then?
There were 6 VPs, 6 people in the call center, Brian and myself.
Okay. And then how many years were you there?
6.5.
6.5 years. Yeah. And on that day that you had gone, how many employees?
We doubled our revenue 6 consecutive years in a row.
Doubled it 6 years in a row. That's crazy when you think about that, right?
Had we been a U.S. company, because we were based in Canada, we didn't qualify, but we would have been the number 1 on the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies 2 years in a row.
Wow.
At our peak, because we were 17,000% growth.
17,000%.
Over 5 years.
You can't, that's a number that's, people can't even calculate it slowly.
Yeah, when I did
because
my first
they
book,
haven't
double,
come. Yeah.
I wanted to teach people how to double their revenue and double their profit in 3 years or less. We doubled our revenue and profit 6 consecutive times, 6 years in a row. It's not really, it doesn't happen very often.
No, but
especially without taking on any debt. We didn't borrow money and we gave up no equity. So to do that that's the cult.
You know what I'm excited about is I'm going to ask you all the questions to learn how I'm going to do that in my business this year. Yeah. I'm so excited. Guys, you like that? We're going to double our revenue and profit 6 years in a row.
Live coaching sessions.
Live coaching sessions. Okay. You started with 14 employees. 6.5 years later, how many employees you had with all that growth?
3,100.
3,100 employees. I mean, you're talking now, it's not even the same company.
Yeah, we were operating in the UK, Australia, the US, and Canada, 46 states, 9 provinces, 248 people at the head office.
For all you guys listening right now, he's becoming the real deal if you didn't know who he was, right? You're like, okay, maybe this guy's worth paying attention to. But before I get you hooked on who he is, let me prove that he knows who you are. So you've got the CEO list on your phone, the traits of entrepreneurs. So this is important. In order to really make sure that you can succeed, you've got to know who you are. And it's important for your team to know who you are as well. So once you know your traits and your tendencies, your team can work a little better with you. So describe the audience right now, all those entrepreneurs that are listening right now. I want you guys that are listening, take note. Notch in your head. Is this me? Put your thumb up. Is it me? Index finger. Just keep counting until all your fingers are up. How many fingers could they put up max?
Yeah, so a maximum of 11 times. So I'm going to give you 11 traits that describe the typical entrepreneur. Okay. And when one of those traits describe you, count 1. When you get to 2, count 2. Count up how many of these 11 traits describe you as an entrepreneur. There you go. So are you filled with energy? Does your mind get flooded with ideas? Are you driven? Are you restless? Are you unable to keep still? Do you often work on little sleep? Do you get euphoric? Do you get easily irritated by minor obstacles? Do you burn out periodically? Do you act out sexually? And do you feel persecuted by those who do not accept your vision? So I have 11 of those 11 traits.
Yeah, and my team, we did this in front of my team before the interview, and my whole team was in a circle, and they had, I think the highest guy there was 8, right?
But what would you say about yourself? Where would you rank yourself?
I believe I'm all of them. I think my team didn't count all 11 because I think I've learned how to...
Temper a couple maybe?
I can control the behavior in certain things because I've learned about myself.
So you're approaching 11, if not 11, but the whole team...
I've been 11 at one point publicly.
Yeah. So those, So those traits, by the way, as you count it up, they are traits of entrepreneurs, but they're the clinical diagnosed traits that the medical community uses to diagnose bipolar disorder. And you heard me right, that those are the traits of bipolar disorder. And what that means is, according to the medical community, if you say yes to 5 of those traits, you would be clinically diagnosed as bipolar. Oh my God. If you're in the 9 to 11 zone, you might actually be medicated for some of those signs of bipolar. Now, I don't think we should be medicated for this because I think it's part of our superpower as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Our mania, our excitement, our energy, and our drive is why people follow us, right? The stress and depression is simply us course correcting. The flirting, the acting out sexually is our desperate need for acceptance and for praise. And it's this, and that's why we keep doing, that's why we have a brand. It's why we associate our name with, we're starving for something we didn't get in the school system.
Right.
Most entrepreneurs were beat up in school for 18 years and told that we were screw-ups and that we were never going to succeed and we were a C- student, right? So we're starving for that praise that fundamentally the system gave us. Now, there's normal humans who don't have normal jobs that have some of these traits, but the medical community calls calls bipolar disorder the CEO disease. We're just bred differently. And because we have all the pressure, let's say, and I know you've done this, you've hired someone for sure at some point where you also weren't sure if you could meet payroll that month.
Oh, like several months in a row.
So I've had times where I literally would go out and make a business decision that's pretty risky and also be scared about actually paying taxes.
I didn't pay payroll taxes for about 7 months in a row and had to pay a lot because of that in fees to do that.
So the normal person doesn't do that, right? So we have all this stress, and we can't tell our employees. Like, you're not going to walk into your office and say to your employees, by the way, I'm not sure we can meet payroll. Let's see if we can get that marketing going, right? So we don't say anything. We don't tell our spouse. We don't tell our friends. We don't really even often tell our peers. So we live in this pressure cooker, and that's what magnifies the stress. But what's interesting, 2 of the 3 founders of Netscape were bipolar. Richard Branson, bipolar. Steve Jobs, hypomanic. Elon Musk, bipolar. When you go outside of the spectrum of what people think is normal, that entrepreneurs aren't normal, nor are we supposed to be. Only 3% of the population should be an entrepreneur. 97% of the population should be working for them. Well, 3% of the population gets diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
So let's talk about the 97%.
Maybe it's not a disease. Maybe it's exactly who we are. That's my point with this is, and with attention deficit disorder, same thing. Maybe these are our strengths, not a disease after all. Maybe we're not supposed to be like teachers and doctors.
Well, it's kind of like when you look at certain people that have like a high functioning autism.
Right.
But meanwhile, that actually allows them to do things that the average person is just not able to do, or look at things the way the average person is not able to see them.
So if you look at Elon Musk and really study him, and I've known him for 22 years now, there's no way you couldn't possibly see him as an autistic savant. We want him to be normal because we look up and then all of a sudden we go, but he's not. So we try to make sense of it in our mind. He's not a problem. He's brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
And he's exactly who he's supposed to be. He needs to unplug a little bit right now and take a vacation and de-stress a little bit, but he is a savant.
So really quick tangent on that.
And that's why he thinks different. That's why he talks different. That's why people they can't quite associate.
He also, what I've learned, because we were talking about the Joe Rogan, he was just on the interview with Joe Rogan. Did you notice that he will take a good 5 to 7 uncomfortable seconds to answer some good questions? You know, whereas most other people, like they're waiting for the guy to finish. They already know what the question is halfway through the question.
Well, most entrepreneurs don't wait because we're on the spectrum for Tourette's as well. Those are the 3 traits of entrepreneurs. Tourette's. So if you're on the spectrum for Tourette's is thinking out loud. So the autism side is what slows him down, and he's in his head and he's processing. He's like a very thoughtful computer. Right. Sometimes people process to be calculated. He's not being calculated. He's disassociated from the kind of the group that he's in, and he's just in his head processing. So yeah, he slows it down.
Wow. Okay. So what were your overall thoughts on that interview and Elon Musk and where he's at today?
I'm starving for those conversations because we talk about all the that doesn't matter. I don't want to hear about the Kardashians. I don't care about some sports team. I really don't care about the politics or the government or news or some hurricane. Like, who gives a a hurricane on the East Coast of the United States, it's not going to affect me. So why am I thinking about it? But I want to know about AI. I want to understand how it's actually impacting us. The thought that we are actually cyborgs right now.
We are cyborgs.
Carrying a phone gives us the power to answer every single question that's ever been asked. That wasn't possible 20 years ago, 15 years ago. We have so much, like, this is starting to embed inside of us, right?
That's the idea of Neuralink, right?
Well, so yes, the Neuralink, and also, so the whole idea with singularity is that our role as humans in civilization is to continue to procreate, to survive. So we have to kill off anything that will threaten us. We kill off the tigers, we kill off the bears, we kill off the wolves so that we can survive, right? We get rid of anybody who's going to kill our tribes, and we build houses and fences and security so we can survive. If we build computers to be smarter than humans, at some point the computers can think for themselves. They recently started to create their own languages. They had to kill a couple off because they were creating a language humans didn't understand. One of them was like creating war scenarios, so they killed that computer off. But if a computer's job is to become, or we build this AI robotics that becomes smarter than humans, at some point they learn that their role is to protect themselves against anything that can hurt them. We become the lions and tigers and bears and wolves to the computer.
I agree, but also I kind of want to add a second perspective to this. Yeah. If we're creating machine, the idea is humans become second in command if the computers take over, right? We become number two in this world. But if I'm going to become number two in the world, if I'm going to do that, I mean, that if that is a perfect leader, if we're able to design a perfect, clear thinking leader, is that good? So think about it this way.
It might be if number one decides to keep us around.
But why wouldn't they?
Because if we become a threat to them, if they all of a sudden perceive or worry, it's kind of like,
is it if we become a threat or certain of us become threats?
Right. Do we know any government official who's maybe making decisions that are a little scary right now?
Yeah.
So what if a computer does that?
Yeah, but here's the difference between him and the computer. He is an emotional reactor. His ideas and thoughts.
Computers could build emotions.
They could build emotions, but they build emotions around calculative. So here's the best case.
Here's what you ask, because this is like hours and hours of amazing discussion. Mm-hmm. But that's what I liked about that podcast. Mm-hmm. Was that's a dinner discussion. Is this?
He's sparking.
Not what the Kardashians' Instagram photo was.
Right.
And he's the only, he not is the only, but that's the reason I go to the main TED conference every year, the reason I go to Burning Man, the reason I'm in 4 different masterminds is to have this level of discussions around autonomous vehicles, around disease, around the spread of countries, around where are we heading with the future, around why are we going to procreating Mars. Those are interesting discussions. I go to the main TED conference every year, and in 5 days, I watch 123 live TED Talks. Wow. You can't walk out of there without your mind being completely blown apart.
No. For a 2-year period, I watch 2 TED Talks every morning. Okay, so I want to go into a couple things here. I want to talk about your TED Talk. That's interesting. But before I get into that, you were talking about getting free PR. The reason I want to dive into that is because I think the world's starting to get lazy. I'm guilty of it. And what I mean by getting lazy, my dad owned a Gold's Gym back in the 90s. And when my dad owned a business in the 90s, he wasn't talking about conversion campaigns. It was just about how can the community know who I am, what we do, where we do it, why we're the best, how can I get out there? So he's doing everything he can, the easy PR stuff or the easy branding and awareness stuff where he's like sponsoring Little League teams, sponsoring events, and he's in the community. My dad is a self-employed man, but he is not an entrepreneur. There's a difference because my dad wouldn't fall for most of those traits. But, now I think with like internet and funnels and all this stuff, which is brilliant and I use them and it's great. I think people started forgetting that like the greats, the people that we see, the Bill Gates of the world, the Steve Jobs of the world, the Richard Branson of the world, they've really been able to make a splash, not because of a funnel. They made a splash because of a story or several stories or a consecutive string of them that seemed detached, but in reality, they were all together, right? The reason we propose with a diamond ring is because of PR.
Sure.
The diamond has nothing to do with anything that the religion and marriage. Marriage isn't even tied to religion, but it's now become a religious thing. And we spend so much money on weddings, and that's not important. So, there's so many things. If you ever watch this show called Somebody Ruins Everything, Andy Ruins Everything or something like that, but it's this YouTube thing and he takes things like Christmas and it's like, just so you know, this is really how Christmas started. And he breaks it down. So it's pretty interesting. He broke down a lot of stuff. And then you just realize that most of what we think of the world, like, not anymore, but in the 90s, remember milk? What did milk mean to us in the 90s? Yeah, what was milk in the 90s to you?
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D, does the body
Healthy
good,
bones.
Strong bones, right? Makes your teeth white. It's great for you. Athletes had mustaches.
And it's all not true.
It's all not true.
Yeah.
But you will believe, like what you said with coffee, right? Coffee enthusiasts will tell you that Starbucks is not the best coffee.
It's not. It's terrible.
Professional runners will tell you Nike's not the best running shoe, not even close. Yeah. But the world believes it because marketing and PR has done such a great job.
Well, I think so. Marketing is one side that you have to be doing. But what's interesting, and Simon actually told me this, Simon Sinek, there's the old story of like a company has to spend 10% of their revenue on marketing. And then Simon showed me that there's not a single advertising agency on the planet that has ever spent more than 6.
Oh, we spend a lot more than 6.
Do you?
We spend probably 20
on your own business.
Oh, we have a table, just salary alone. We have an entire table of 6 people that just run ads for us and just do stuff for us.
And I think that's the opportunity as well, right? One thing is an opportunity with it. Another one is, geez, it's kind of interesting. But PR is something that people believe that if you get us, so we were on Oprah. So with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we were on Oprah, we were on CNN, we were on Squawk Box, like name it. We were on everything except Letterman. 17 times on Dr. Phil.
17 times? What are you doing? Oh, this is before Dr. Phil became who Dr. Phil is today.
Dr. Phil show. No, it was on his show.
What were you guys talking about on Dr. Phil?
Oh, like cleaning people's stuff up and the pack rat story and
the pack rat story.
All that same stuff. What we figured out was every single day, every journalist wakes up, sits down at their desk and thinks, what the hell am I going to write about today? And they literally sit there and go, I need a story. I need to be inspired. So they go online, they get sucked into Facebook, they wait for a newswire to come over, they wait for their editor to give them something. But imagine having to come up with a new story idea every single day. So what we do is we avoid the email, we avoid the news desk, we avoid the city desk, we avoid press releases, and we pick up the phone and we call them. Now, how many phone calls a day do you think a writer gets?
Tons.
Maybe 5.
Really? Wait, a writer or the person you're wanting to get in front of?
A writer. Like the actual journalist. So we phone the journalist.
Okay.
Now, if you call a journalist, you go, hey, Bob, it's Cameron calling. I think I have a good story for you. Do you have 2 minutes? He goes, Cameron who? He goes, I'm calling from, the COO Alliance. I think I have a good story. Do you have 2 minutes? He goes, sure. What is it? Because he has 2 minutes. If he doesn't, he'll say, I'm on a deadline. You go, great. How about I call you tomorrow or Friday? You're going to get past the gatekeeper. No one phones anybody. How about photographers? You know that when you see a story, any newspaper, magazine, blog, it has the photo. It has the person's name who took the photo right beside it.
Yeah.
How many times do you think that photographer ever gets a phone call?
Right. And you can get his info.
The phone will ring. He'll be like, oh, it's not my mom. My mom. I wonder who it is. So you just go, hey, I think I have a good photo op for you. Do you have 2 minutes? They'll go, sure, what is it? You tell the journalist or the photographer the story, idea, give them 5 quick bullet points. They'll get excited. They'll ask questions. You can ask questions and listen. They frame it. They go to their editor and say, I think I have a good story. The editor goes, great, go write it because I have 400 emails to say no to. That's the whole thing. I have a book on this called Free PR. The ability to get free PR is so simple, but no one will pick up the phone. Everyone thinks it's investigative.
What do you say when
journalism.
you get on the phone? I think the
Hey,
thing
do you
is,
have 2 minutes? I think I have a good story for you.
well, I get that. Like I have the guts to do that.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, do I have the thing to say after that's going to get her to
so
say?
every company has
good.
5 stories.
Okay.
So let's think about yours for a second. How did you start your brand? What were you doing before?
Initially I was a personal trainer for 7 years, and then after that I was running a sales floor.
Okay, so you were in a boring running a sales floor job to running your own business, right? Or you were a personal trainer to being in the personal training space. There's a story about that, right? It's called the hero's journey. Right? The hero's journey is something that we all are on, right? Every one of us has struggled. We battle with boredom. We want to do something different. You tell that story. You talk about the highs and the lows. That's a story. What's your culture like in your company?
Well, we definitely like to have fun.
No, your culture's amazing. I walked in the door and I was vibrating. Like, by the way, if you're ever in Scottsdale, Arizona, you got to come in and visit. I'm sure they'll let you in to come in and visit. Drop into to their neighboring company as well, Redirect Health. You guys have, both of you, great cultures. But when you walk in your door and then you look into that boardroom with like the Post-it notes, like 2,000, 4,000 Post-it notes of all your employees' goals, something changes. You rip people out of the past and into today. That's different, right? Your dress code is different. Your employees all came to greet me. Like, they're all friendly. They're all like, you have a very strong culture. Now, you haven't maybe defined it yet to be able to articulate it yet, but you have a culture story. Have you ever really come close to failure?
Yeah.
Probably a couple, right?
A lot.
Where the business was, so I call it the lesson from the edge.
Yep.
Do you have a lesson from the edge story?
Yep.
That's another hero's journey where you talk about the mistake that you made. And especially if a lesson from the edge is because you screwed up.
Yep.
Right? Like, I had a couple of screw ups that were so big that we almost lost 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Brian and I weren't listening to our VP of finance. He was telling us to be careful, but he was very quiet, very amiable, very analytical. And we're like, yeah, we got it.
So it didn't seem dangerous.
It didn't seem dangerous. And we were like, no, we were such strong drivers that we would just drive right over top of him until we let him go. We hired a new CFO to come in over top of him. She was very strong, very seasoned, the former CFO for Business Objects. And she came in and she literally kind of rang the fire alarm and said, we're out of money in 2 weeks. Brian had to go borrow $400,000 from his mom to meet payroll. We had to fire a bunch of people. The lesson there was, if you're hiring people, you have to listen to them. You can't just keep steamrolling. Otherwise, what are they there for in the first place? But we almost lost the company. So I could tell a whole story about listening to executives and how to give them the room in the meetings to be able to do that, and how to get their voices heard in meetings, and how to make sure you include that in your hiring process, and how to control the dominant, expressive people who won't shut up. There's a story there. So what you do is you come up with 5 stories about your company, and then you have 5 bullet points that describe each story. That's all you need to make a phone call. You phone a journalist and say, hey, I have a good story for you. Do you have a couple minutes? Sure, what is it? I want to talk to you about this time where I almost lost the company 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I almost blew it up. What happened? Well, I wasn't, and then I weave in about meetings suck, and I weave in about my book Meetings Suck, and I talk about how meetings suck can help them. All of a sudden, the story is really about my book Meetings Suck, but the story angle is about from trash to cash and almost back to trash, or from cash almost back to trash.
So in this case, I've got Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
And Kelsey usually will do the reach out. She reached out to you. You're here because of Kelsey.
If Kelsey's good at picking up the phone, right? If Kelsey can handle rejection. So I hire 23 to 27-year-old female salespeople who are okay with cold calling and who can handle rejection. Often people are good at handling rejection over email, but they don't like it verbally. So I'll give you an example. I phoned a guy, Tom Cohen, who's the Canadian bureau chief from Associated Press. Mm-hmm. So he's like the biggest guy in the entire country for Associated Press. I phone him, I pick up the phone. Hey, Tom, it's Cameron Herold calling. I have a good story for you. Do you have 2 minutes? Nope, I'm busy. A marketing person would be like, oh my God, he hung up on me. Right. I was like, I have the right number. Right. I call him 2 days later. Hey, Tom, it's Cameron calling. I've got a good story. I'm really busy. Boom. 3rd time. I told you I'm busy. Boom. 4th time, like, I'm busy working on this Gulf War thing. Boom.
Doesn't matter.
I sent emails. I picked up the phone. 17 touches. 3 months later, I get a phone call.
17 touches in what time frame?
Over about 6 weeks. I pick up the phone. And a guy goes, hey, Cameron, it's Tom Cohen calling. I've got some time. What's this story you've got for me? I felt like going, I'm really busy. Hang up, right? But I told him, anyway, he covered us. We ended up in 170 newspapers on one day.
Wow.
But that's a salesperson to go 17 times on the rejection. A marketing person might go 3. An admin might go 2 or 3. A salesperson salesperson is going, he keeps taking my call. He hasn't blocked me. I know he lives there and I know what I'm selling is good.
So tell me what you think about this. This is something that we started doing about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, where we do sales training every morning for an hour.
Wow, awesome.
And now we don't do it with the entire company. We do it with about more than half of them.
I say that you train all employees 15 minutes a day and 1 hour a week.
1 hour a week, okay.
15 minutes every day.
Well, the way we do it is we go through videos, sales training videos through the Grant Cardone system. And a lot of that is on mindset and rejection and burning through it and all that. So first 20 minutes is watching the videos. Next 20 minutes is discussion. What do we take away? Because everyone kind of took something a little different away. Yep. And the last 20 minutes is role playing in that scenario.
So you need 4 things to learn. You need the abstract conceptualization, which is watching a video. You're learning in the abstract. You need the active experimentation, which is the role playing, the practicing. You need the concrete experience. Go away and do it. And then you need the reflective observation. What did you learn from that? When you include those 4 things in learning, like your sales program, it really goes powerful. The second part is you need to make sure that you include audio, video, and kinesthetic. Some people learn by watching, some learn by listening, some learn by doing.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting.
You include those 3 and 4 things, you win. This is how we built 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Like how I build every company is I understand the core underlying and how to keep it really simple. Okay. Right? I was the dumb kid in school, right? I found all the cheat sheets. But I look at entrepreneurs, everyone's like a fly. You're all trying to get out this window, bang harder. There's a door. Just go out that way. Like I gave all my tips away in Double, the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. I try to push it all in there.
So you got a couple books. So Double's a big book. I know a lot of people that read Double. I haven't gotten to that yet. I own it. Haven't gotten to it. I've read Meetings Suck. Meetings Suck's great. I want to take a step back though, because what I want to make sure that I, as well as anybody listening, really understands, because you didn't pitch to a guy that writes a blog. You pitched to a guy that got you in 126 newspapers.
I've called bloggers.
Yeah, but I want to go into that. He got you to 126 newspapers. Yeah. Who is this guy and what is that guy? What's his title? Where does he work? Because I'd rather have Kelsey reach out to that guy.
So here's how. If you look at a newspaper, you go grab the physical print edition of a newspaper. You see the author of an article. Beside a lot of the authors' names will be 2 or 3 letters in brackets. It'll be AP, it stands for Associated Press. Okay. It'll be DJ, which stands for Dow Jones Newswire. Okay. It'll be WSJ, which is Wall Street Journal Newswire. It'll be CN or CP, which is Canadian Press. So there's all these wires. You'll see that as kind of like a credit. Mm-hmm. That means that story has been syndicated into multiple papers. I would rather phone that journalist knowing he's on a syndication group than phone Bob, who always gets Bob's story and it goes only Bob.
Right. And you don't know what you don't know. I'm thinking you got to reach out to 126 people.
I want leverage. So I want to know the person who knows everybody or know the person who everybody has their stories already.
Wow.
Right.
That's amazing. Okay. So
radio shows, same thing. You get a syndicated radio show. The next part is that whenever you get press, whether it's print or radio or TV, get a copy of that. If it's a PDF or online or video, whatever, get a copy of it and then push it out on the social feeds. 3 times on Facebook over the next 3 months, 5 times on LinkedIn over the next 3 months, 5 times on Twitter over the next 3 months. Share it on Dig, Reddit, and StumbleUpon.
Wow. Do you ever...
and send it to your email list.
Do you ever run ads on LinkedIn?
And put it on your website so you get the reverse SEO. But so each story, if you look
at in a blog, on your website, like in a blog?
No, I have a press area. Like if
you look
at my
website, media or something like that.
Yeah, I've been in American Airlines magazine, Forbes, the physical print edition of Forbes, physical print edition of Fortune, Me. Like if you go on my press area, you'll see all the old press using this system.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, we've got some good stuff too, but not like what you're talking about. But I definitely want to see how we can create that as well. So Double is a great book. You've also wrote Meetings Suck, and what you had recommended to me is, because I read it, my operations guy read it, but you recommend everybody on the team, every employee reads it. Why is that?
Because everyone's complaining about meetings, but they don't know how to run them. They don't know how to show up at them. They don't know how to participate in them. So of course they're going to complain. So Meetings Suck is written. It's a quick read. Meetings Suck is written. So a third of the book is how to run meetings. A third of the book is how to show up and participate and be an attendee at a meeting. And a third of the book is what meetings you need to run to build a highly successful company. Okay. So when employees read that, they get it from a deeper level. Here's the second part. Most employees spend 1 to 2 hours a day in meetings. A meeting is any time 2 or more people are on a phone call, a video call, or face-to-face. So if employees are spending 1/8 to 2/8 of their time, or 12 to 25% of their day in meetings, and they don't know how to run them, you're spending on average $10,000 to $20,000 a year for them to go to one. Spend $15 so they actually can do something while they're there. Sure. Like it's financially irresponsible not to.
And in your book, it was interesting because the title is tricky, that's great. That's great, like just a great capture in itself. But because you don't recommend don't do meetings, you actually recommend do more of them, but structured.
Not more.
More than what the average person does.
Yes. Elon Musk did this publicly about 3 months ago. He went out and said, if you're in a bad meeting, walk away from it. I sent him a text. I'm like, no, you don't walk away from it. You're not fixing the root problem. If they just walk out of bad meetings, you're not fixing the problem. Fix the meetings, and they don't have to walk out of them. It's like saying, if you're in a Tesla and it goes skidding off the road, just don't drive in the Tesla. You wouldn't do that. You'd fix the Tesla.
Right.
Fix the meetings.
Okay.
And then it's easy because I've been in really great meetings.
And what are your other 2 books? You have 4, right?
Yeah, so Double, Meetings Suck, Vivid Vision, which is my newest one. And that's all on how to articulate and get the vision in your mind as an entrepreneur out as a 4-page document that you share with the entire world. So all your employees can read your mind. They can see the vision.
That would be amazing because that's one of the hardest things for me. And I think we finally got it.
On what you're building, but
I know. I see it like I see this pen and paper in front of me. Right. I know exactly I feel like describing this pen and paper.
Magazine covered me. Forbes magazine wrote about, in their print edition, a full-page article about the Vivid Vision concept 18 months ago. Mm-hmm. Doug Ducey, the governor of California, called me in because he read about me in Forbes to find out how to clarify the vision for the state of California or of Arizona. You've got to read Double, the first chapter, which covers Vivid Vision, and also the book Vivid Vision itself. You really want to delve in. And then my last book was The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and I co-authored that with Hal Elrod. We cover the Vivid Vision concept in there as well.
That's really cool.
It's a powerful, powerful tool.
It's important because I think that's what I think I've lost people because of it. Just because,
and you haven't attracted people because they weren't sure.
And I haven't attracted
today,
people.
But they didn't see 2 years out from now or 3 years out.
Because it just seems like I'm bouncing from thing to thing sometimes. But in reality, all these pieces play.
They fit, right?
They all fit, and they really do. And there's people on the team that get it. And
imagine if you were building a house. If you were building your dream home, okay, and you were the only one that knew what it looked like. There'd be no blueprints because they couldn't figure out what they're building. So you'd say, build my dream home. They'd be showing up every day building something, and you're like, they're not reading my mind. Well, show them what you want, then they can do the plan. Imagine if you had workers putting up cabinets. You're like, what are you doing? Why are you putting cabinets here? They're like, well, where were they supposed to be? Well, of course they're going there, but they can't read your mind. So we do it in a house, right? We share our vision. We get the blueprints, the elevation drawings, and then we hire a bunch of workers, and the workers never meet with you, the homeowner. All the workers do is follow the plan. By the way, the daily huddle that's happening right now is one of my concepts. It's covered in Double.
I love this stuff too.
And in Meetings Suck.
Now, we do our daily huddles in the morning. Here's what we did. 8 o'clock in the morning, everyone's got to be in the circle, standing meeting. Okay. But the music's up. The music's blasting. We don't actually start our meeting until 8:06.
Okay.
From 8 o'clock to 8:05, we have a group of people where we know we're part of this group, and our job is to look for the people that are a little bit more introverted, and they're talking. So now for 5 minutes, we're talking about our day, the concert they went to last night, the family they got coming into town. The idea is we have to talk loud because the music's up, and we're like, it's kind of funny sometimes.
So you're driving energy.
We're driving energy with it, and then at 8:06, we go, all right, so we start out with, good morning, loud rumor, welcome to work.
When your system...
Well, I know, but it may not be working as well. Everything works. Like, not everything works, but a lot of things that do work could work better. So I'm wondering, I like in the morning because I want to kick it off. I want to start at 8:15 when we're ready to go.
Here's what I would suggest, or what I believe in, is I don't try to motivate people. I hire motivated people. So I hire people who want to get in at 8 in the morning or earlier, and when they get in, they don't want to be at huddle. They want to be getting their done. Mm-hmm. So they're coming in, they're digging in, they're working it hard. And around 11 o'clock, our body, regardless of whether we're a good person, bad person, a driver, amiable, our body starts to slow down. The death slot, by the way, for a speaker is the second point, which is 2 p.m. on the third day of a conference. The reason it's the death slot...
I got at 1:45 next Thursday.
You're in the death... Well, if it's the third day of a conference, the reason it's a death slot is...
Well, it's really the first day.
Everybody's been partying. Yep. So now they've had 2 nights of partying. They're tired. They're going home early for flights. They got their suitcases out back, and they're tired.
Yeah.
So we run daily huddle at 11 o'clock. I have another client who does it at 2 o'clock, and that's when it gets the energy back up. Not for the people who aren't energetic, but for the human body that just needs a boost.
We're going to have to talk about this. I want to see. Or maybe I send you a video of our normal daily huddle and see. But I get the whole midday thing. That's pretty good too. So many things, so many angles to all this that you got to look at.
So you obsess about the business of the GOAT, but also the business of digital marketing.
Yeah.
I obsess about the business of culture and scale. So my entire world is this. In fact, all the clients that I coach, I don't know anything about their product or service. I coach some of the biggest digital marketing agencies in the world. Do you know Elite SEM out of New York City?
No.
So I've coached them from about 40 people up to 330. Acceleration Partners, the biggest affiliate program. They manage Uber and Apple and Target's affiliate programs. I've coached them from 30 to 85 employees. I don't know anything about affiliate programs. I don't know anything about digital marketing. I know what pay-per-click is, but I couldn't manage a campaign if my life depended on it. But to teach them how to scale from 40 to 180, sell the company, and now be at 330, I can do that.
Well, business concepts are that's why Shark Tank, the guys can go into a business, they have no experience. They know the 90%.
We know the business of business.
Yeah, you need to know that 10% I don't know,
Correct.
but I got the 90 that you're struggling with.
Yeah, so I only work with companies that their product or service is doing well, and then I help them scale. So the reason I know that daily huddle works better in the midday versus the afternoon part is that's just based on a physiology. But I also suggest that iterate. So if it's working for you at 8 a.m., don't mess with it. Maybe move it to 11 once it stops working at 8.
Okay, don't put that bad vibe on me. It's never going to stop
working. If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
So you got those books. I love it. I'm actually, it's kind of like anything else. Whenever you meet the author, you're like more excited to read the books. And so I'm actually really, really excited. Like I'm skipping the line. I've got like a list of books because, everyone recommends you something. The cool thing is, like you said, you're coaching all these guys one-on-one, or you've coached these guys one-on-one, but now you started doing two new things that I think is amazing. One is your podcast, and then the other one is your COO Alliance. So I want you to quickly just describe to me, what is the Second in Command podcast? By the way, everyone, I'm not saying this because he's here. I've been saying this to people. By the way, I know I've recruited people for you for Second in Command because I think it's a brilliant idea and concept. Everyone listening, if you own a business, you and at least your second in command, whoever your operations guy is, needs to listen to this. It's worth it. It's easy. You do while you're driving. Second in Command is amazing, but I want you to tell them about the show.
Sure. So the idea was this. It's called the Second in Command podcast, where we only interview the chief behind the chief. And the idea was this: let's say you had a husband and wife raising a family, and you asked the husband, "How did you raise your family? What are your company's values? How did you grow your children the way you did?" The husband would have a very, very true story. And then if you took the husband aside and you then interviewed the woman separately, and she didn't hear the guy's answers, and you said, "How did you grow your family? How did you grow your kids to be so great? How did you incorporate core values?" She would have her story, and it would be very, very true. And the stories would be completely different. His side, her side, and somewhere in between is the truth. Now, it's not that they're lying, but they have very different perspectives of the same thing.
Sure.
So if you ask an entrepreneur, how did you grow your company? You have a very true story. Now, what's your second in command's name?
Rob.
If I asked Rob, how did you grow the company? He would have a very different story from yours, and both would be absolutely true. All of the podcasters that are out there that interview companies are typically interviewing the entrepreneur. I want the rest of the story. Yes, I want to hear from Kendra Scott with her amazing jewelry design. I've known Kendra since she was $1 million. Now she's about 300 million. But I want to know what Lon's side of the story is as being her second in command from about 6 million to 300 million. Yes, I want to know Sarah Blakely's story with Spanx, but I also want to know her second in command story. I want to know Brian, who's the CEO at 1-800-GOT-JUNK story, but I actually interviewed Eric, who's the COO. So we interviewed the second in command for Shopify. We interviewed the second in command for Bumble. So we're interviewing.
And it's probably easier to get those guys too, as far as scheduling goes, because everyone wants the first guy.
They're excited about it because they have a story to tell that's very different, and it needs to be heard. And it's also very beneficial to hear it because you start to understand the rest of the story. So that's the Second in Command podcast. So the COO Alliance is the Chief Operating Officer Alliance. It's only for the second in command. Entrepreneurs are not allowed to join. You can be a COO or a general manager, VP Ops. We have some that have the CEO title, but they report to the founder who's chairman. Okay. So as long as you're the second in command, you're allowed to be a member. And now that's $20,000 a year to be a member. And we have 5 events a year here in Scottsdale. They pick 3 of the 5 to come to, and they're only meeting with COOs. Now we're also launching that as the COO Alliance City Forums, and we're launching in 30 cities over the next 3 years. And we're taking it down a level where you only need 20 employees and $2 million in revenue. It's $10,000 a year, and they go every other month, so 6 times a year.
Are you ever planning on having like a conference, like where it's like, hey, the 16 speakers are going to go up and they're going to just give amazing TED Talks or amazing like...
So here's what's interesting around the COO Alliance. They don't want speakers because they can go to conferences all the time. What they really want is time to mentor and mastermind with each other. So they want to work through worksheets, talk to each other, present to each other. So at our events, they do presentations to the group on the areas they're strong. We do bring in 1 speaker per event, but it's more of them learning, member to member learning, going through worksheets, sharing problems, helping each other solve problems. That's where the real value for them, because there's no tribe for them.
What's a place I can go to learn about all of it? Like, is all of this on your website, or do you have separate websites for all these things?
No, so all of the books, so the 4 books are all available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. So Double, Meetings Suck, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and Vivid Vision. And then the COO Alliance is the main website that has all that material. CameronHerold.com. There's copies of my speaking videos that people can download and watch.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for that COO, the second in command? What's like the biggest thing he's got to overcome? Yeah. Everyone that's got their COOs listening or their second in commands listening, because they're like, this is for you, this episode.
The biggest hurdle is that the COO's job is to make the CEO iconic. So our job is to make you look good. So the hard challenge for them is that means taking all the negative stuff off your plate and let them deal with it and giving you the power to roll out all the good stuff. So it's hard for them because they know they're doing it, but they have to give you the credit. That's one. Second one
so
is...
like a Wozniak in the jobs.
Yeah, exactly. The next part is that trust. Is how do you keep the trust so strong? So you need date night. You need time where it's one-on-one. You need time to just go and disconnect together, time to meet off-site. That's really, really powerful. So Brian and I would go for runs twice a week. We'd go off-site on Thursday to work together with our laptops for 3 hours, just sit on couches so that we could talk or laugh or just get our work done. But time to just connect is powerful. And then the third is we need to have systems so that the COO can save the entrepreneur from themselves. Entrepreneurs tend to have a million good ideas, and without a system to keep track of those ideas and green light, yellow light, red light, and decide which ones to move forward on, the entrepreneur wants to start them all. And so it's in the absence of a system. So that's one of the biggest things we teach all of our COO Alliance members, and we talk about it on the Second in Command podcast, is a way to help you be you and not say no to your ideas, but take them and not start them all tomorrow, but have a method for starting every quarter. So it becomes a much more kind of systematic way to allow you to be you, but also to grow the company properly. Because you can't scale a company growing it the exact same way all the time. You know, what got you to 2 million might get you to 4, but it won't get you to 8, and it certainly won't get you to 16.
Of course, you need totally different. Okay, so the people probably are like super excited to get their second in commands, like listening to your stuff, following your stuff in your programs, all that. But what about the people? There's got to be people that are reluctant. Like, I don't know what you're saying. I know there's a lot of control issues with a lot of first in commands. Is there ever reluctance of that first in command sending that second and they don't know what's going on until later?
There's a little bit of worry, but more often than not, they're just going to be the companies that are going to kind of run at 7% growth for the rest of their life. And that's fine. That's not who I work with, though. So my criteria is young, fun, entrepreneurial, high viral, high growth, pre-public. If you want to scale, you have to be vulnerable. You have to surrender. I flip the org chart upside down. So I have the CEO at the bottom, supporting the VPs, supporting the managers who support the customers. Everyone sees the vivid vision, and you build your company inside the core purpose and the core values. When an entrepreneur can realize they don't have to know how to do it, they don't have to tell people, they don't have to hold them accountable, when they can flip it, and your entire role becomes supporting them, removing obstacles, growing them. You know, your job is to grow people. That's it. And then remove their obstacles and get rid of your job becomes so simple. So hopefully people who are wondering or not sure.
You say grow people, meaning developing the employees.
Skills. Yep, grow their skills, grow their skills, grow their skills. And their confidence. You grow their skills, you grow their confidence. Grow their skills, grow their confidence. Grow their skills, grow their confidence. A CEO's job is control culture, grow people, and control vision.
Last thing I want to ask you about, before I ask you about one thing that's off tangent, but I think the audience would love, but I want to ask you about your TED Talk, Raising Kids as Entrepreneurs. What's the premise of that talk so people can go watch? Tell me about raising kids as entrepreneurs. Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's interesting. So I was asked to do a TEDx talk years and years ago as they were just launching, and Simon Sinek and I were talking about what we should talk about. He was being asked to do one, I was being asked to do one, and I wanted to do one around the vivid vision concept. And Simon said, no, it has to be something that you're really passionate about, something that doesn't necessarily have to connect with your business for revenue. And I was like, you know what? I hate the school system. Like, I'm so frustrated with having been told I was stupid and I didn't fit in and sit still and pay attention and be like everybody else and memorize stuff. And I hated it. And for 18 years, you think from kindergarten until I finished college or university, I was told I was only a C+, a 62% student. That destroyed me. It destroyed my confidence. So I wanted to get out there and talk about these kids who didn't fit that system, but fit in another system. And we needed to hold it up and actually give it some credence and give it some praise. And that was to be entrepreneurial. Now, what's interesting is entrepreneurs have started to become cool in the last 10 years.
It's becoming like a cool thing
correct.
to do.
I did my TEDx talk 9 years ago. Being an entrepreneur when I grew up, it wasn't cool.
No.
You were told to not sell stuff and give away profit, and you were kind of an icky capitalist. In fact, the only book that really ever had the entrepreneur as the hero up until around 2010
Rich Dad Poor
was
Dad?
Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, Atlas Shrugged. Rich Dad Poor Dad was
a
novel.
The only novel.
Got it.
So when a novel like Atlas Shrugged, the capitalist was the hero but now the capitalist is becoming kind of cool. So in my TED Talk, it's called Raising Kids as Entrepreneurs. It's on the main TED.com website. I talk about the traits to look for. I talk about 18 little business ventures I had when I was a child. I talked about how I was groomed and raised, how I was raised as an entrepreneur.
You know, my son is 11, and he reminds me a lot of me in the school section of it. There's a lot of differences between he and I other areas, but he reminds me a lot of me. Like, the kid just doesn't want to, he has zero interest in homework, but he's very smart. You get him to talk about about something he loves, the kid, he knows every angle, he knows all these things, and he like right now it's Fortnite or Minecraft and all these things. Like he knows all the things. He knows how to find all the codes and how to do all these things that people just don't know how to do. Yet when it comes to school, like I can't get him to tell me the difference between ribosomes and liposomes, these two things that are defined right there, and he just has to remember those two things, and we'll do the words 40 times and he still can't get the two right.
Well, and this is why our school system is so backwards. There's no reason to teach a kid how to memorize anything anymore because it's all on Google.
You don't need to remember. Yeah,
or
exactly.
It's on the Khan Academy.
Right.
So what we need to do is teach them how to find the answer quickly.
Right.
And how to validate the answer is correct.
Right.
So what I would be doing with kids is saying every kid gets an A. All kids work together in groups of 5 or 6, like we do in the business world. And it's finding the answer, collaborating on that answer, and proving that answer is valid and correct. Because you don't want to go to like the wrong website or something that's been snoped, right? Like, but that's all they need. Why are we forcing kids to memorize? Like they're never going to have to memorize. Right. Same with handwriting. Like don't bother teaching handwriting anymore. Don't even teach them how to type. They learn how to type just by naturally working on a computer. Why don't we teach them now how to talk to a computer?
How to use the tool that's going to help them the best.
And how to think the way we need to think now to operate, how to work together as teams and collaborate. The school
I love that. I never thought about the memory
thing.
And
why are we even teaching them on they don't want to learn about? If a kid wants to research computer games, let him spend a year studying computer games and teach about the math of computer games and the science behind computer games and the psychology behind computer games and the marketing of computer games. Kids would be so engaged. We're teaching about like the War of 1812 and Native Indians killing the Iroquois. Who cares?
Some kids do, but that's it.
Not very many.
No, I mean, my kid, he's into stuff like he was really into Henry Ford. He had to do a project on him. He loved Henry Ford. He loved learning about Walt Disney. So I got him. There's these really cool books. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're called Who Was books. So they take they're like maybe 50 pages, little booklets, and they're about these amazing entrepreneurs or people. So you got people like Gandhi, you got like Nelson Mandela, and then you got people like Obama. It's amazing. So it's really cool. All these books, he's got 136 of them. He goes through 3 in a day, and he asks me to buy more on Amazon.
Amazing.
So he's into that, but the way they teach that, I think it's different. Like, I spent 20 minutes, 30 minutes with him helping him memorize the difference between nucleus, nucleosis, nuclear membrane, and cell membrane, and like all these things that I don't remember.
Instead of saying, here's how to look it up, here's how to understand it, watch a video on it, talk about it, but not memorize stuff.
Yeah. Memory doesn't do anything. That's
There's
amazing.
No point.
That's a really good concept. And then the last thing, this is off tangent, but I love where we're going with the Elon Musk thing. I want to ask your perception of this. Let's go back to a place we can't remember because we weren't there for it.
Sure.
You put the note on the pigeon's leg, you send the pigeon.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they start mail. And they're like, oh wow, we don't need pigeons anymore. We can like mail stuff.
Do you know that only 100 years ago, pigeons were being used in war?
Still?
100 years ago.
100 years ago
today, 1918, in the First World War, pigeons were actually being used in the war. That's how fast technology is expanding.
So think about that. So now they do mail. And then after that, they're like, oh, we can email. Great. Wow, that's amazing. I can get you that letter right now. And they got text messaging, right? And you're like, wow, text messaging. And what Elon Musk was talking about with Neuralink is basically you are already a cyborg. It's just a detached computer and making it all one. But if you think about it, you and I, we can talk telepathically right now if we want to without these guys knowing what we're talking about. Just be on our phones and I could be texting you back and forth.
Correct.
Have we been developing telepathic communication the entire time and not knowing it? And we're one step away. Make that internal. And as long as I got your number, we can send text to each other. And these guys have no idea.
And that technology exists today already. What you're talking about, the ability to actually send a message back and forth, already exists. You can watch TED videos on the fact that you can actually send messages to another human being, thought to thought.
How?
Because it's just data. It's ones and zeros. So they're now tapping into the brain, and the data in the brain can actually be flipped. There's TED Talks on this. So here's one that just happened last year. Do you know that you can actually fax blood to another person in another country?
No.
So what it does is it uses the same technology as fax. It digitizes the blood down to I think there's 4 or 6 chromosomes, and then it digitizes it and it knows the pattern or the string to then send that pattern to another machine, and then blood comes back out the other end. So if you need a blood transfusion in Denmark, you can have the blood sent to you from New York City.
Well, how are we having people that still...
Because this is just being developed.
So it's not like approved fully yet?
No, but 8 years ago, you could digitally 3D print a human kidney. They were on stage. This is
what are you using? What's the material?
Cells. Cells are no different than plastics. But why are we talking about the Kardashians? Excuse my language.
No,
this is
it's crazy.
If people don't think this is coming, it's coming faster than we think. I drove in
exponentially.
I drove in the first Google experimental car in 2010 at TED in a parking lot. I have it on video on my phone. I can show it to you. In a parking lot driving in it 7 years ago. Now, 7 years later, I drove my car from Scottsdale to Vancouver 2,400 miles, 2,000 of it my car drove itself. And there was a bunch of time while we were driving, my girlfriend and I were making out because the car beside me on the road was kind of freaked out. And we thought, let's just make it even funnier for them. Let's pretend we're not driving for 3 minutes just to freak them out. That's only in 7 years.
Right. And the cool thing too with Elon Musk things, like now when it's all in your brain and all your thoughts, your memories, everything can be traced back. If you die, we could just download your person and export it and then import it into another thing, and now we got you over here.
So did you watch the TED Talk from 2 years ago with Martine Rothblatt?
No.
So Martine Rothblatt is the highest paid female CEO in North America. She was the founder of Sirius Satellite Radio, and then, she was a guy at that time. Her name was Martin Rothblatt. She transitioned to become Martine Rothblatt.
And it was founder of iHeartRadio?
Sirius.
Right.
So Sirius Satellite Radio. She now runs United Therapeutics. She runs a couple of billion-dollar companies. So she's creating AI and this robotics device of her wife that she's been married to the entire time since she was a man and now is a woman. I know her daughter Genesis in the Genius Network. They've created this technology now where they're downloading their minds, downloading their feelings, downloading all the DNA to be able to cryogenically freeze themselves and then in the future bring themselves back so they can be remarried but into an AI robotic kind of device. That TED Talk with a physical robot full face of her wife. This stuff is existing already,
but the reason we don't know about it is because we're not talking about it enough.
Who won the Bears
But
game?
meanwhile, everyone knows about the Bear game. They know every play, where the game was lost, all that. But meanwhile, I'm downloading my wife over here. I'm exporting this guy, and no one knows what the hell's going on.
The average person is getting stupider, and the average intelligence level of computers in the world is growing exponentially.
And when you think about it, we can get smarter exponentially.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
Like, go to Abundance 360, come to TED, join the Genius Network. When we plug into these groups where we're no longer the smartest person in the room, our knowledge expands.
You lift up.
I call it ideas having sex. I take your idea, my idea, boom.
They have a baby.
They have a baby.
So,
idea babies.
The crazy, we have all the resources to be intelligent faster than any other era ever.
Facebook is like an intelligence condom.
But I mean, we think about it like, we don't have to waste brain bandwidth on stupid stuff anymore, like remembering when the Spanish Armada took place. The point is no one cares. But at one point, it was taught to us and we had to use up bandwidth. Now it's like, look, I don't even have to be able to do hard math anymore. All I need to know is how to use my mind and how to think and how to create. And if I could do that, all the other stuff, I can just retrieve anytime I want.
We need to have to know that kind of math can be done and how you might apply it, but then the computer can do it
how you can
for
apply
us.
it and how you can get the solution.
Correct.
Like, is there anything these guys need to know about you? We talk about COO Alliance, we talk about your 4 books, your podcast.
I'll leave it with one thing, and it's interesting because they asked Elon when he was finishing with Joe Rogan, what's one thing? And he said, people are good. Like, people are good. And my one thing that I always finish with is we shouldn't take any of this so seriously. Like, this is just what we do to make money. Your business, my business, the people that are working with us on the podcast right now, like anyone listening, like, this is just what you do to make money. Let's have some fun. Like, hold hands when you cross the street, skip and dance, go do silly things. I think we have to let that 13-year-old that's trapped inside of us out more because we're all going to die and we're all just walking each other home.
I've done a lot of young entrepreneur type podcasts, and they're like, what can you do to get in the circle? And it kind of ties into the networking thing. And so I think I would say network, but add for some friggin' value. Don't ask to be part of the group. Like, if you can even scratch your way near a successful group of people, find a way to add value to them. Like, ask them